In this video we go up north looking for various rarities, including 3 American visitors. This adventure started off with a long drive up to Northumberland. When we arrived it was late, so we settled down, hoping the following day would produce rarities and hopefully even lifers.
Morning.
Good morning. It's cold. We're in Northumberland and we're here this morning to find a very specific little bird which apparently is potentially a good couple of miles walk away and can be easily flushed, so this could be a bit of a challenge. We are after an American Pipit, which would be a lifer for us if we can find it. Stick with us, we've got a bit of a long walk ahead of us.
And only a few minutes into this long walk, we got a lovely surprise.
Hey folks, we've just got one bird we didn't even get last year. That's a good start, a grey partridge. There were 3 of them in a field. Excellent. We've not really walked very far yet, so bear with us.
Having failed to see this species on our last big year, we were super happy to get this on this year's list. This species used to be very widespread and common in the UK, but has suffered some pretty serious declines and is now red listed. Now, back to our long walk. We walked through some farmland and then onto some sand dunes, eventually coming to a beach. There were some lovely views, being able to see Bamber Castle in the distance. We soon bumped into a couple of other birders that were scanning the sea. Apparently they were looking for a very rare black scoter, which is an American visitor. More on that bird later. We couldn't see that, but there were some common scoters quite close in. And joining those unusually close scoters was another bird for our year list, a Slavonian grebe. This time of year this species is grey and black, but in the summer when they breed they have lovely yellowy orange tufts by their ears. We couldn't stick around and watch these amazing sea ducks for long though, as we had a long walk ahead of us, so we headed off down the sand. We did en route unfortunately find this washed up body of a puffin on the beach. What a shame. But we did have to press on. Finally arriving in the area where the American Pipit had been sighted over recent weeks. The only problem though, the area was pretty big.
Hey folks, so we've walked a couple of miles down the beach. It's a beautiful place, it really is.
Yeah, no, it's stunning.
Absolutely stunning. We picked up Slavonian grebe for the year as well. There's been a couple of them on the sea with scoters, which is kind of cool. So we're coming into an area, although a big area, where this American Pipit may be. It's been seen apparently across the whole of this kind of 2-kilometre area, so let's see what we can do. Stick with us.
The footpath took us over an area of sand and onto a salt marsh, where in front of us was an amazing sight. An enormous flock of Brent geese were flying through. Thought last year when we were at Frampton Marsh we saw a lot of Brent geese, but not like this. This was incredible. We walked the length of this bit of beach and salt marsh, looking out hoping to spot the American Pipit amongst the vegetation. And although this was a pretty grueling walk, the scenery was absolutely breathtaking. By this time we'd nearly reached the end of the beach with absolutely no luck at all with the American Pipit. When we finally got to the end of the beach, we joined 2 other birders, and one of them had something quite encouraging to say. About 30 minutes beforehand he'd seen the Pipit. Only briefly, it had been feeding on the beach and then it had flown out of sight. The other birders and Kaylee scanned where the Pipit had last been seen. I walked a little bit further round the point up to a monument and stopped when I saw some movement. A small bird flew in from the left. I focused on it and it was our bird. It took me a moment to realise exactly what the bird was, and when I did I had to try and summon Kaylee and the other birders over, which meant a short whistle and some hand gestures, luckily not spooking the bird. Pretty soon they joined me and got eyes on this amazing little visitor. This species, as the name suggests, is a visitor from America and is pretty widespread over in the States, breeding in the northernmost part of America and Canada and wintering in the southern states of Mexico into Central America. This bird wasn't always called the American Pipit. Until a couple of years ago it was called the buff-bellied pipit. Regardless, it's an amazing bird to see on UK shores, with only a few yearly records here, and a good chunk of them being either an island, the Scillies or Shetland. So luckily for us it was only a long walk as opposed to a boat trip. This wonderful individual was extremely confiding and stayed reasonably close to us, feeding amongst the rocks and seaweed. We watched it for a while amongst all the other birders, delighted to see this stunning visitor, almost forgetting the miles they'd walked to find it, and the additional miles they'd have to walk back. Regardless, it was worth it. This was a stunning bird.
Victory!
And Nigel spotted it.
I found it. And we got to the point and a guy had seen it half an hour or so before, but it had flown away.
He'd only seen it for a couple of seconds, he said.
Brief seconds. So we walked right up to the end of the beach and I thought, oh, I wonder if it's around this corner. And a bird flew in from the left and it was it. Which I showed lovely on the beach. Absolutely fantastic, honestly. That was
a very long walk.
Worth a very long walk, very exciting. There was also like eiders and grey plovers and all sorts. This is an amazing place, absolutely stunning. Now we've got a good hour or so to walk back. So
lovely stone chat find.
There is a stone chat, that's what I was looking at, stone chat. Yeah, we've got a hell of a walk back, so stick with us and we'll move on after this to somewhere else.
It was genuinely difficult to tear ourselves away from the pipit as it was showing so well. Not only that, there were so many other birds here, eiders on the sea and wading birds on the shore like redshank and grey plovers. Ultimately we did have to move on as we'd invested an awful lot of time in the walk here, and also it was getting a bit chilly standing still, so we began our long trek back towards the van. And long it was, we were getting achy legs and hips.
Kelly's having a rest on the way back.
Long way, it's like 7.7 kilometres so far.
Yeah, we've walked miles and miles.
That's the way.
So we're having a quick rest before we head back to the van.
We finally got back to the van and headed back on the road. Our next destination was about 20 minutes away. We did have a slight delay though. We had to stop for not one, but 2 trains crossing. Finally though, the barriers lifted and we could get on our way. Our destination was, I hope I pronounce it right, Goswick Beach. To get there though, we had to walk through a golf course. Luckily for us, the golf club welcomes walkers, and there's a footpath that goes right through the middle of the course that leads onto some dunes and then to the beach. And the reason we were here was to look for a very rare American sea duck. I might have mentioned it earlier.
Encouragingly, we can see some birders on the top of this hill in front of us. So I'm really hoping they're looking for this black scoter that we're after.
Yes, that bird is the aforementioned black scoter, the American counterpart of our common scoter, although there are some serious plumage differences. The main one being a huge yellowy orange top to its bill. At a distance though, this may be a bit tricky to pick out, so we were hoping the birders there had eyes on it. Unfortunately though, they didn't. But not getting the black scoter immediately wasn't a major disaster, as there was plenty of life on the sea to look at, and some birds we could count off our year list, like this group of long-tailed ducks. Other birds on the sea included divers. Now picking out which species of diver at this distance was a bit of a task, and one that I was really struggling with. We're presuming this lot are red-throated divers, as that's generally the most numerous anyway. There was apparently a black-throated diver somewhere in the vicinity, but I couldn't have confirmed an ID on it. As time passed, a couple of the birders with really good scopes thought they found the black scoter out among a large raft of ducks in the far distance, but they couldn't pin it down as the birds were actively feeding. Eventually though, one of the birders found the black scoter, still in the distant flock, but just about visible in his expensive scope. So we all took turns to have a look before the duck vanished. Kaylee even managed to briefly find it in our scope, but the problem was getting you guys some footage. Not able to pick it out in the camera, I just took a few videos of the flock the black scoter was in, or at least I hope I got the right flock.
Hey folks, well we've seen it. It was at a hell of a distance, like
Very satisfying.
not massively satisfying. We've seen it. I'm hoping I've got footage so we can count it. So by the time I put this video out and you hear what I'm saying, you'll know. I don't at the moment, and if it is footage, it's very shaky. But let's see. If not, we have seen it. So it's well into the afternoon, but onwards and upwards. Stick with us.
Well, this seems to be a running theme with scooters, but I managed to get something far in the distance. Everyone get the magnifying glasses out. We think this is the black scooter, but even if not, we saw it well through the other birders' scope, so it's going on the year list, and it's a lifer. After that pretty challenging bit of birding, we traipsed back across the golf course again and headed back to the van. It was now well into the afternoon, but we still had time for one more bird. This meant driving towards sea houses and a small farm pond called Monk's House Pool. And for a small bit of water by the roadside, it was really lively with birds, with plenty of lapwing and black-headed gulls, and some geese too, like these greylag and Canada geese. But we were there to find a different species of goose.
Hey folks, we're here at Sea Houses looking for Russian white-fronted geese. A bird that Kaylee's only seen once, and until now, I think she's got her eyes on one now. We're looking right into the sun, so it's not going to be the greatest footage, but there's another one for the year list.
Yay!
And there wasn't just one of them. We couldn't count exactly how many because the light was against us, but there may have even been double figures of this goose here. The white-fronted goose, or greater white-fronted goose, is a species which is split into two subspecies. The Russian white-fronted goose, which are these ones here, that breed in Russia and winter in northern Europe, and the Greenland white-fronted goose, which breed in Alaska, Canada and Greenland, and winter in America. This group were feeding on some grass with some greylag geese, until all the birds got spooked and lifted. The skies were filled with curlew and lapwing, and when they eventually landed, the white-fronted geese had relocated onto the pool itself. These geese are one of our rarer wintering goose species, so were amazing to see in numbers, and to tick off our year list. Now we were getting pretty hungry, so decided to nip into Sea Houses to have a quick look over the harbour, which was pretty quiet for birds, and then get ourselves some dinner.
What have you got for dinner, babe?
Fish and chips.
Lovely.
It's like a reward.
It is like a reward. We've walked absolutely miles today and got all the birds we wanted. Now, fish and chip time, and we're going to call it a night because we're absolutely exhausted.
We'd picked our fish and chips up from Sea Houses and driven back to where the white-fronted geese were to watch the sun go down. When we arrived back, the white-fronted geese had made their way back onto the grass and were feeding amongst all the other goose species. They were being overlooked by a pair of herons that were sat on the farmer's wall. These two appeared to still be social distancing. And as the sun came down, more geese came in. But with tummies full of fish and chips, we had to leave to our overnight destination and get some sleep ready for more birding in the morning. We woke up to a beautiful morning at Creswell, and as Kaylee was getting ready, I had a little bit of a walk down the lane and looked over the pools. I soon saw a ghostly white shape sitting on a fence post. It was a wonderful barn owl. It was sat looking around, surveying the scene around it, presumably looking for its breakfast. I made sure to keep a distance as I really didn't want to spook this wonderful hunter. But soon it did take off. It flew gracefully and ghost-like silently along the fence line. After a short flight, it dropped into the long grass. I thought maybe it had found itself some breakfast, but that didn't seem to be the case as it sat in the long grass for a while, looking around as if it was embarrassed that someone might have seen it miss its prey. After what seemed like ages, the owl ruffled itself up and then took to the skies again and flew away across the pools. What a stunning bird, and I'd felt really quite privileged to share the early morning light with this amazing barn owl. By now, Kaylee was up and about and ready to set off, so we hit the road and headed south towards North Shields.
Hey folks, we're in North Shields this morning after, hopefully, a young Iceland gull that's been apparently around here on and off, so
If you're better at identifying than I'll ever be.
I think you'll be fine. Yeah, we'll go and see if we can find it. Stick with us.
After referring to the sat-nav and getting our directions, we made our way towards the fish quay, where the young Iceland gull had been spotted on previous days. And after a little bit of wandering aimlessly, we finally found it. Looking down over the edges of the harbour, we did see this lovely pair of eider that was swimming about amongst the boats, but there weren't that many gulls present. I did notice a small handful of young herring gulls and also a couple of great blackback gulls too, most of them just swimming in the bay, but no young Iceland gull.
Hey folks, no luck on the Iceland gull. And we've got a bit of a theory why, because it's a Sunday and the fishermen aren't bringing fish in.
Yeah, it's a fish market.
So, that's a shame. Stick with us though.
After this little disappointment, we headed back up north.
Hey folks, we've gone back on ourselves a little bit before we go home to Blagden in Northumberland because an American widgeon has been reported here. So we're going to try and find it now. Apparently it's in a pool.
After the sat-nav sent us everywhere.
After the sat-nav sent us all the wrong directions. But we're here now. So stick with us, let's see if we find it.
Next to the local farm shop, there was a woodland walk, which took us alongside the private Blagden estate. There was some farmland here with some geese and cattle in a field, and in the middle of the field, a large pool. And this is apparently where an American widgeon had been sighted only about half an hour before, hanging round with a flock of our European widgeon. And looking out on the pool, there was definitely no shortage of them. Amongst the widgeon, there was also some teal and gadwall too. Thinking this would be an easy task, we were soon proved wrong, as a portion of the pool, especially the near bank, was obscured by a reed bed. After reasonable scan and almost giving up, we finally spotted our target bird, the American widgeon. It had been in a corner obscured by the reed bed. It was now, thankfully, swimming out towards the centre of the pool, giving us some slightly better, mostly unobscured views. This species, as its name suggests, is an American duck, but does seem to be becoming an increasingly regular visit to the UK, with more sightings and often multiple birds being in Britain at one time. And although this may be the fourth or the fifth one of these species we've seen in the UK, it doesn't take the shine off what a cool duck it is, and another bird for our year list.
Hello. We've got it. It was here. It took a bit of finding actually. We've searched for a bit and then it came out from a little bit that was obscured by a reed bed, and then it vanished. As soon as it turned up, it vanished, and I can't find it anymore.
You are looking like through reeds, though, aren't you?
Yeah, we're looking through reeds, but yeah, we've got it. So that's another one for the year list, and an American rarity too, which is
You're doing well with
excellent.
American
We've got loads of American ducks this year. Just need some of our own rarities.
Now, hopefully, we've just got time for one more bird. And this meant another stop off at another farmland pool, this one being a bit bigger than the last couple. And the species we were looking for here was spotted redshank. When we arrived, there was another birder present, and we asked him if he'd seen the spotted redshank, but unfortunately he hadn't. Regardless, the more eyes the better, so we started scanning the pool in front of us. And it was pretty lively with birds too, with mallards and widgeon, teal and lots of gulls, both black-headed gulls and herring gulls present here. It didn't take long for the other eagle-eyed birder to pick out a shape roosting on the far bank. It looked like a prime candidate for the spotted redshank, but we couldn't confirm it as it didn't have its head up, so it was a waiting game for the bird to wake up. We waited and waited. I kept getting distracted by other birds like this blue tit, but eventually when I looked back, the sleepy bird had raised its head and woken from its slumber, and we could confirm it as our target species, the spotted redshank. This species is slightly larger than the common redshank, with a very dainty bill, and the colouring's very, very different. In summer these birds are black, although now in winter they're very pale grey. Spotted redshank don't breed in the UK, but a small number, approximately about 100 birds, do overwinter here. And this individual, according to the other birder, is a returning bird who'd been here previously. After a while, all the birds were spooked and lifted. When everything landed, we found the spotted redshank again, but further in the distance on a mud spit. Excellent, another great bird for our year list. Now though, unfortunately, it was time to head home. Passing en route, the Angel of the North.
Hey folks, well, that wasn't a bad weekend at all.
It was really good.
We got 2 lifers, which is amazing, which is rarer these days. And we got to see almost every bird that we went for, which is awesome. Thanks so much for watching. Please like,
Please subscribe.
and please press the notification bell. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.